Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another Tractor Tuesday video. These have not been downloading very well lately for me, so we're going to try to flood a few to catch up for lost time. So on today's Tractor Tuesday video, we are going to focus on a 1956 60 John Deere. This tractor has been in our family since 2007 or 8. It's been a pretty interesting ordeal. Let's get into it. Let's see what we can come up with. So the 60 John Deere is just a basically modern new version of the A John Deere. So this one's got independent power takeoff. A lot of people want to call it live power, but it's independent power takeoff. The master power takeoff switch is still where it was with the A, and that feeds the clutches, which are back in this housing back here. So this has got a little oil leaking out of it, but back to this housing here. As long as you engage that before you start the tractor, you'll be able to run the PTO. And this is your PTO lever right here. This engages and disengages. So there's a set of clutches back here. It takes a little different oil than the transmission in the rear end. I mean, it's, clutches obviously require different lubrication. Also, this is, so this tractor, let me think here. I'm not a huge John Deere fan, so I got to think a little bit. This tractor, let me think here. 60 John Deere. So I believe these were made from 1952 to 1956. So this would be the last year of the 60. And then from here they went to, the 620. And don't quote me on the years of them either. I don't have one of them yet. And then they went to the 630 after that. And then into the first generation where them... I don't have one in sight here, but like the 3010s and the 3000s and the 3020s and the 4020s and so on and so forth. I think the first one would have been the 40, don't quote me on that, but 4000 series, I think. Anyway, so this tractor is actually quite an upgrade from the A's. You had the battery underneath the seat. They were 12 volt. I've got all my stuff set up with Delco Remy, Chevy freaking parts, because Chevy stuff is just cheap as hell. So my stuff's negative ground. And I've got it all running through the switch, so when you shut the switch off, you don't have to have the battery draw. I mean, so many guys I've seen hook these things up wrong, and then they drill through the battery box. My battery box is brand new because mine was shot. I'm not drilling a hole through that and putting a battery disconnect switch in there. Why not just wire the damn thing up the right way? My ballast resistor on my ignition right there took a crap on me, so I got it wired direct. But anyway, a little bit of history on this particular tractor. I had some trucks on with Menards, and we were hauling building materials from the Plover, Wisconsin Menards to customers. And I got to a customer out on Oak Road, out in the middle of nowhere in Portage County, and I pulled in his driveway, and he had his dad's property he took over or whatever, and he had a couple of tractors sitting behind the barn, and I pulled in the driveway, and of course, the first thing I noticed was he had a Super C Farmall, a 60 John Deere, and a W... No, it wasn't a W. It was a D series Alice. I'm not sure what it was. 15 or 17. It wasn't a big one. Wasn't a little one. And I pulled in the yard. The guy come out, and I had half his house on my semi, and I got a forklift on the back. One of them piggybacks. I think the one I had there was a piggyback. Would have been Palfinger 553, if I remember correctly. I pulled in the guy's driveway, and he's like... yeah, we're just going to unload it over here and over here and over there, and I want this here and that and the other, and you know how it is. And I said, hey, I see you got a 60 John Deere back there. I says, you mind if I go take a look at that? And he goes, absolutely not. And I said, well, let's get this stuff unloaded. We'll go back look at it. So we unloaded everything, and I put all my straps away, and This is in, like I said, 2007, 2008. We go back there and we look at this tractor. Now this so this tractor's got the original tires still on it. And they are junk. I could show you better on the other side, but like this chunk right here missing, that's from me taking this out in the woods on my skidder that I got on my 730 now. And you run something over, they're just dry rotted and it just chips the pieces off. It's fairly impressive, actually. I've never seen a Goodyear tire last this long. This should be a Goodyear friggin' commercial, you know? The front tires were rotted off. They were junk. And the guy told me that they had problems with the, what the hell did he say? He said they had, every 6 months they had to put PTO clutches in it, which tells me that he never took the master out of gear. And they probably didn't have the right oil in it. I don't know, not judging the guy. And then he said finally, in 1979, his dad finally said, the hell with this thing, we're parking it, because he figured the governor flew apart and it wouldn't idle. They'd start it up and the thing would take right off and it would not idle. And so his dad said, we're done with this thing. And they parked it in the spot that I seen it in 1979, where I seen it in 2007 or 8. And we went around it, you know, whatever, talked about it and whatever. And so I says, well, what do you think it's worth? Now, there again, this tractor did not have this loader on it. This loader is a Model 45 Series 1 John Deere loader. The reason I bought it, I know it's a weak piece of crap. I don't care if you're a John Deere bleeding green, whatever. I bought it because the thing's, it's got all the original bolts in it. It's never been welded on, and it's done me good. I mean, this was our main loader tractor for many years. We loaded round bales, fed cows, moved cow manure and whatever. Got a pan that goes on the bucket. I do not have a snow bucket for this thing, which I really don't care. I plow snow with many other things. But anyway, so he told me all about it. I loaded the thing up the next day or two or whatever it was. I paid $200 for this tractor. I can't zoom out any farther, but I paid $200 for this tractor without the loader. I got it home. I took the 1030 onto it. We drug it around the yard, and there was water. Well, let's go on the other side. I don't think the stain will still be there, for crying out loud. It's been 100 years ago. So there was a stain of rust, like almost up to the crankshaft, which tells me that the water holes in the bottom where the starter, because the starter on this tractor mounts underneath the crankcase up inside this hole, and all of that was full of water at some point in time. And we pulled it with the 1030 and used the clutch and put it in, you know, 5th gear or whatever the hell it was, and we got the damn thing to turn. But it wouldn't roll all the way over. But we got it to turn. So then I had it in front of the shop, and man, I can't remember. That's just so long ago. Was it the wife? It might have been the wife. And she pulled me a little bit, and I got the thing to turn over finally, and it turned all the way over. So I took the line off and I put some gas to it, whatever, and I just shot it with a little bit of ether, and we ran it. Once we got it to turn over, we ran it with a belt. I locked the brakes. I mean, it's a John Deere, for crying out loud. It ain't nothing more than a drum brake. You just stab the brakes, lock them in, and we got the thing to turn over. And I give it a little shot of ether, and the damn thing ran, and it fired. It ran on ether, didn't run on gas, but so I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. That makes me happy. So I the manifold, which you can still see here, where you know, all this heat bullshit and where you turn it, whatever, I cut all that off with a grinder, because what's the point? It doesn't work anyway. But I took the carburetor off, and when he said that the thing would run, and it would run RPMs and, you know, whatever, wouldn't idle, I thought the governor. So I took the governor apart. I have the PTO, and I have the tachometer and the new cable. I have all that stuff. I don't put it on here because the loader's on here. Plus, now that it's not on the skidder, it doesn't make no difference to me. That governor looks brand new inside there. And I'm like, what the hell is wrong with this thing? Why it doesn't idle? Well, when I pulled the carburetor off to clean the carburetor out, so this is a, like I said, an upgraded version of the A. This is a 2-barrel carburetor. When I pulled that carburetor off there, one of the barrels was missing the throttle butterfly. The screws were gone and the butterfly was down inside the intake. The head was cracked anyway. It didn't make no difference, but I found the reason why. It was just coincidence. Put this back together, got a different head for it. I put hardened seats in it. I put new valves in it, got sodium valves in it. I mean, I can run garbage in here for gas and it'll run. And it's a John Deere, so they barely do that anyway. But I put this all back together and the thing runs pretty good. So I've had this on the skidder. I mean, we've used this for many things. It was on a baler for a while, but mostly the skidder. And then I found this loader. We bought this loader for $200. It was $195 down at Lakeside Implement. So that loader, it's been on and off this tractor a lot. The reason it's on here now is because my backhoe tractor, the clutch is slipping in that a little bit, so it's kind of hard to plow snow. So I've been using this freaking thing. Where was I going to go with that? So anyway, this tractor's been around a long time. So the starter finally took a crap on us again. I had it rebuilt because it was full of water, you know, up to the bottom of the crank. And the starter took a crap again. So we pull start it and no big deal. But $490 for a starter for this tractor. Well, that's 3 times what I paid for this thing. Obviously, if you do the math, that's not correct. But anyway, point being, I figured I'll stop at some tractor shows and flea markets and I'll find. So I've got 2 starters I took into my guy, and one, the armature's shot, the other one, the weights were shot. I got enough parts, but I just still need an armature. So, yeah, so anyway, so if I need this tractor, I got the loader mounted up on a block across the front, and we just pull start it. You pull it 3 feet and the thing's running. You know, I don't know, if the loader wasn't on here, I could probably start it with a pulley on the other side. And, you know, on the old trick too, you know, and I've got a few of them, but like with the loader on here, there's a deal that goes inside of here, and you could pull this over with a steering wheel or a crank. There's actually a small crank on some of these. I don't have one, but I've seen them. You put it in here and give it a crank. I mean, this thing runs pretty good. If Gus would get out here, we could pull start this thing. And like I said, 3 feet it's running. But yeah, so the wife likes driving this tractor. The kids love driving this tractor. We've used this thing like you wouldn't believe. Loading hay, loading manure. This thing has done a lot of work. This was our main tractor for a little while. And then I bought that second 580 case, and that kind of cured using this thing as much as we've been using it. But I had this on a skidder in between the farming thing and whatever. I mean, you know, we got better tractors and whatever. So I got my pull behind skidder, and we'll do a video on that, because that's hooked onto one of them, that electric start 730. It's back there behind all that junk. Let me see here. I still can't see it. But the skidder's way back there, hooked onto one. It's all hooked onto 11 electric start 730, and that used to be on this tractor. So I used to haul. I mean, I've hauled everything you could think of, but I used to cut pulpwood. I started that in high school, and kind of did my own business thing there for a little while. And a buddy of mine, he's a lot bigger into the logging thing now than he was then. But so then I followed one of his guys that worked for him in a 753 John Deere processor on tracks. And I mean, every day he broke something, whatever. So with my little pull behind skidder, I think I got a 1.5 1 3/4 on my bunk. Not nearly as much as the 4-wheel drive skidders that I've driven, but I followed him through, man, 8, 10, 12, 20 jobs, I don't even know, with this friggin' tractor hooked to that skidder. We made good money. I did it after work. I got done with work. We'd go out there. I added these LED lights. I got these front and rear. These are ANNTs, you know, of course, Chinese bullshit, but man, they don't suck any juice. In this tractor and that skidder, I could keep up with him. But bouncing around out in the woods, my water pump started leaking, and then the radiator started leaking, and, you know, because this tractor hadn't been farmed, and, man, it hasn't moved in a spot for 30 years, you know, whatever. And so anyway, it's got brand new radiator cores in it. It's got brand new water pump in it. It's got a lot of new parts in it, but I was skidding wood, and I was making good money, so I didn't give a crap. I'm trying to think here. Not that this is anybody's business, but I think we were right around $14, $15 a cord. And, you know, running old junk equipment like this, and behind a guy that wasn't a production guy. I mean, you know, you get we had back when I was doing this stuff, we had a 1070 John Deere. That was the fastest electric over hydraulic they made back in them days. You know, this is a long time ago, of course. Don't quote me on the years and the numbers, but I could have never kept up to that, for crying out loud, not with this whole setup, but not doing it part-time, of course. I mean, if I ran full days, half through way through the night, maybe, I guess, depends on the operator, but the dude he had operating his, yeah. So anyway, they ended up with a double bunk and whatever, and the dude that had the 753, he couldn't keep the thing together, so when he quit, that was the end of our skidding. So now I skid for neighbors and myself, and now that we got a sawmill, we do all that. But anyway, getting a little long-winded here on a 60 John Deere, for crying out loud. This thing don't deserve that much credit. Yeah, so anything else there is to know? I wish I could just start this thing up. This thing runs like you wouldn't believe. One cylinder must be, I don't know, I didn't do a compression test on it, but down a little bit. Because when it runs, you can tell it runs good, but it's oblong, being a 2-cylinder, so it's pretty cool. So I don't know. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I didn't ramble too much, but yeah, we'll see you on the next one.